The Big Bang Theory, the tallest and shortest actors in the cast, an inside look at height differences behind the scenes of the hit sitcom. When it comes to a show as character-driven as The Big Bang Theory, physical traits often take a back seat to wit, charm, and quirky scientific debates. However, fans who've watched the series for years may have noticed something visually interesting that often went unspoken: the cast's diverse heights. Whether towering over their castmates or requiring strategic camera angles to balance out scenes, the tallest and shortest actors brought unique energy to their roles. Today, let's explore how these height dynamics impacted not just the visual storytelling, but the characters themselves. Jim Parsons, the tallest main cast member, 6'1". Jim Parsons, who famously portrayed the eccentric and brilliant Sheldon Cooper, stands at approximately 6 feet 1 inch tall, making him the tallest among the core cast. It's a subtle detail that often gets masked by clever cinematography, especially in group shots where the height difference might stand out too much. But in scenes where Sheldon looms awkwardly close to Leonard or towers over Amy, it's quite evident. Sheldon's tall, lanky figure complemented his unique physical mannerisms, such as his fastidious sitting posture and robotic movements. Parsons' height lent a distinct physicality to the role, making Sheldon's social awkwardness even more visually exaggerated. Whether he was peering down at someone in disdain or standing rigid during one of his lectures, Parsons' stature enhanced Sheldon's imposing intellect. Interestingly, Parsons' real-life height sometimes made it tricky for him to fit in tight camera frames during group scenes. Set designers and directors occasionally used risers or had other actors stand on platforms to minimize visual inconsistencies, a common Hollywood tactic for ensembles with varying heights. Mayim Bialik tied for tallest female cast member, 5'4". Mayim Bialik, who played Sheldon's intellectual match Amy Farrah Fowler, is around 5 feet 4 inches tall, neither extremely short nor notably tall by Hollywood standards. However, in the world of The Big Bang Theory, her height positioned her squarely in the middle of the female cast. When standing next to Parsons' Sheldon, the height difference was not only apparent but often used to comedic effect, especially in their more emotionally charged scenes. Bialik's height worked well for the grounded presence Amy brought to the chaos of the group. She wasn't physically dominating, but she stood tall in personality and emotional strength, a brilliant foil to Sheldon's towering presence and emotional ineptitude. Kaley Cuoco tied for tallest female cast member, 5'6". Kaley Cuoco, known for her portrayal of the bubbly and street-smart Penny, actually shares the title of tallest female lead with Mayim Bialik, coming in at 5 feet 6 inches. Cuoco's athletic build and confident stance often made her appear even taller than she is, particularly when wearing heels in early seasons. Penny's assertiveness and social savviness were often juxtaposed against the more reserved and awkward male scientists. Her physical presence helped reinforce her status as the alpha in many interactions, especially when she was dating Leonard, played by Galecki, who is notably shorter than her. Fans may recall several scenes where Penny's height, especially in heels, visibly put her at eye level or slightly above Leonard, subtly challenging the traditional romantic visual dynamic. Interestingly, this never diminished Leonard's masculinity in the show, but rather emphasized Penny's independence and their unique chemistry. Melissa Rauch, the shortest cast member, 4'11". By far the most diminutive member of the Big Bang Theory cast, Melissa Rauch stands at just 4 feet 11 inches. Her height was often exaggerated on screen to enhance the hilariously high-pitched and commanding personality of her character, Bernadette Rostenkowski-Wolowitz. In many ways, Bernadette's height became part of the joke. Her tiny stature stood in stark contrast to her sharp tongue, assertive opinions, and no-nonsense demeanor, especially when interacting with her much taller husband Howard. Rauch's petite frame made her one of the most memorable visual presences on the show. Behind the scenes, directors and camera operators worked to keep her within the shot alongside taller cast members. Props and staging tricks, like standing on steps, sitting on tall stools, or leaning on counters, helped balance out the composition. Johnny Galecki, shorter than average leading man, 5'5". Johnny Galecki's height, 5 feet 5 inches, might be shorter than the average Hollywood leading man, but it never once held him back as Leonard Hofstadter. If anything, it added a layer of relatability and charm to the character. Leonard was always the underdog, the earnest, love-struck physicist trying to win the girl next door. His shorter stature often contributed to the comedic and heartfelt moments with Penny. Whether it was struggling to reach something, standing on his toes for a kiss, or awkwardly trying to assert himself during a disagreement, Galecki turned Leonard's height into a strength. It became a subtle part of his vulnerability and appeal. In real life, Galecki reportedly had no issue with the on-screen height disparity with Kaley Cuoco. In fact, he once joked about it in interviews, saying he was used to dating taller women. Simon Helberg close in height to Galecki 5'6". Simon Helberg, who played the fashion-challenged but endearing Howard Wolowitz, stands at about 5 feet 6 inches tall. Slightly taller than Galecki, Helberg's height still kept him in the shorter side category within the cast ensemble. What made Helberg visually distinctive wasn't necessarily his stature but his wardrobe, especially those tight pants and turtlenecks that made him stand out in every frame. Howard's confidence, especially when pursuing women in earlier seasons, humorously clashed with his smaller physical presence. His bold and often cringy flirtations were magnified by his relatively modest height, making his attempts at swagger all the more ridiculous and entertaining. When paired with Bernadette, who is even shorter, Howard finally found a partner where he could stand tall, figuratively and literally. Their height dynamics made them one of the most visually unique couples on television. Kunal Nayyar, a middle-of-the-pack 5'7". Kunal Nayyar, who played the lovable Rauch, is about 5 feet 7 inches tall, placing him right in the middle of the male cast. Rauch's character was never defined by his height, which may be why it's rarely noticeable when watching the show. However, in group scenes, Nayyar often stood between Helberg and Parsons, creating a nice visual balance in height tiers. Rauch's fashion-forward outfits and expressive gestures gave him a larger-than-life energy, even if his physical presence wasn't commanding. Nayyar's average height allowed him to seamlessly pair off with various love interests across the series without major height disparities affecting the visual dynamic. Kevin Susman, a tall and awkward 6'0". Kevin Susman, who portrayed the hilariously awkward Stuart Bloom, is surprisingly tall at 6 feet tall. Despite his height, Stuart was often portrayed as socially invisible or inferior, especially compared to the more self-assured main cast members. This contradiction, tall but timid, added to Stuart's comedic tragedy. In many group scenes, Susman physically loomed over the others, yet Stuart's confidence and success remained consistently low. This disparity made him one of the most ironically funny characters in the show's recurring cast. Will Wheaton, guest-starred Giant 6'0". Sitcoms rely